All right, welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hey, everyone.
You know, the buzz around the 2024 Player's Handbook release is just massive.
Oh, yeah, it's everywhere.
And we actually had one of you listeners send in some fantastic sources about one class that's seen, well, a lot of changes. The Ranger.
That's right. So we're going to jump right in.
Yeah,
We've got this really detailed transition guide and changelog that goes through like everything in the new Player's Handbook.
Super comprehensive.
And then narrowing it down, there's also a specific analysis just on the Hunter Ranger subclass.
Yeah.
Even comes with a sample build.
Yeah, which is cool. So our goal today, it's pretty straightforward, right?
Yep. We're basically mining these sources for the absolute must-knows about the 2024 Ranger.
Exactly. We want to get what's changed, sure, but also what does it actually mean when you sit down to play?
How does it feel? What are the implications?
Right. And maybe uncover some things that aren't immediately obvious. So let's start broad. General class changes first.
Sounds good. Okay, so first big thing, spellcasting. It's now a level 1 feature.
Level 1. That's a huge jumpstart compared to before.
Massive. And there's more flexibility too. You can swap out one prepared spell after a long rest.
Okay, so early magic and adaptability, that's going to change the level 1 experience quite a bit, I imagine.
Totally.
And speaking of fundamentals, favored enemy. That's had a makeover, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, big time. Hunter's Mark is now always prepared. Always.
Okay.
And you get free castings per long rest. That number scales up as you level. And the sources really point this out. This could make Hunter's Mark like the Central Ranger thing again. A lot of the features seem to play off it now.
Interesting. So back to the classic mark and pursue vibe, maybe even stronger.
Could be. It seems like a deliberate design choice.
All right. Now it's something totally new. Weapon mastery. What's the story there?
Right. Weapon mastery. It's a new core feature for Rangers, actually for several martial classes.
Okay.
Essentially, the weapons you're proficient with, they get special properties, little extra effects or maneuvers.
So more tactical choices in combat, depending on your weapon.
Exactly. Adds another layer to think about beyond just damage dice.
Cool. Now, a classic Ranger feature, Natural Explorer. What happened to it?
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, completely replaced. Now there's this set of features under the umbrella term Deft Explorer.
Deft Explorer. Okay, what does that involve?
It includes getting expertise in a skill, plus learning extra languages.
Ah, expertise is nice.
Yeah. And then there's Roving, which is a speed increase.
Okay.
And Tireless, which gives you temporary hit points.
So less about specific terrains, more about general competence and toughness.
Seems like it. Yeah, a bit broader, maybe more universally useful in different campaigns.
Makes sense. How about fighting styles? Always key for customizing a Ranger.
Okay, so fighting styles are now basically feats, and Rangers can pick any of them. And here's the kicker. You can change your fighting style feat every time you level up.
Every level. Seriously?
Yep. Incredible flexibility. Plus, there are new options like Blessed Warrior or Druidic Warrior.
For cantrips.
Exactly. Cleric or Druid cantrips, depending on the choice. Opens up some interesting possibilities.
Wow. Okay. The adaptability level is just way up.
Definitely a thing.
And you mentioned expertise earlier with Deft Explorer. Is there more of that?
Yes. Rangers get a second expertise at level 6 and then a third one at level 14.
Okay, so really leaning into that skilled adventurer role.
Absolutely.
Now, a couple of features we know, Tireless and Nature's Veil, their uses seem to be calculated differently.
That's right. The number of uses for both of those, the temp HP from Tireless and the invisibility from Nature's Veil, it's now tied to your wisdom modifier.
Ah, okay. Not proficiency bonus anymore.
Correct. So wisdom becomes a bit more important for those specific abilities.
Interesting mechanical shift. All right, feral senses.
Yeah.
This sounds like it got a serious buff.
Oh, it's a huge upgrade. Previously, it was just knowing where invisible creatures were nearby.
Yeah, kind of vague.
Now, it grants actual blind sight out to 30 feet.
Blind sight. So they can effectively see anything within 30 feet, regardless of invisibility darkness.
Exactly. Game changer for awareness and dealing with hidden threats.
Wow. That's massive. Okay, last general class thing. Foe Slayer. The capstone. What's new?
Foe Slayer's changed. Instead of adding your wisdom mod to an attack roll once per turn against a favorite enemy,
Yeah.
it now improves your Hunter's Mark damage die. Bumps it from a D6 up to a D10.
So more damage, but specifically tied only to Hunter's Mark being active.
Precisely. Reinforces that focus again.
Okay, that paints a really good picture of the overall Ranger chassis. Let's zoom in on the Hunter subclass now. What are the key changes there?
Right, the hunter. So first up, hunter's lore. This kicks in when you apply Hunter's Mark.
Okay, what does it do?
You instantly learn the target's damage resistances, immunities, and vulnerabilities.
Oh, that sounds super useful. Know what not to hit them with or what works best?
Does sound useful, yeah. But the source we looked at raises a really valid point. For a typical hunter, probably using a bow, focusing on piercing damage, knowing the monster is vulnerable to fire might not actually help your attacks much right then.
Ah, that's a good point. Its utility might depend a lot on the party composition or if the ranger has diverse damage options themselves. Interesting nuance.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next, Hunter's Prey. You still pick between options like Colossus Slayer or Horde Breaker.
Right.
But now, you can swap your choice on a short or long rest.
Ah, more adaptability, like the fighting styles.
Yep. Tailor it to the day's expected encounters.
Okay, let's look at those options. Colossus Slayer first, still reliable.
Very. Deals an extra 1d8 damage once per turn if the target's already wounded.
Standard stuff.
But the source highlights something important. It works on opportunity attacks too.
Oh, so a melee hunter becomes a bit stickier, potentially punishing movement more?
Exactly. Nice little boost for melee builds.
Okay, what about Horde Breaker? That was always the go-to for dealing with crowds. Any changes?
Big changes. Significant nerf, actually.
How so?
It now explicitly says you cannot use the extra Horde Breaker attack against a secondary target if you've already attacked that same secondary target this turn.
Wait, so if I shoot Guy A, then use Horde Breaker to shoot Guy B, I can't then shoot Guy B again with my extra attack.
Or, more likely, you shoot Guy A, your marked target, use Horde Breaker on Guy B. You can't then use extra attack on Guy B. You'd have to target Guy A again, or maybe Guy C if one exists.
Ah, okay. That really limits the mow down the minions potential it used to have.
Yeah, the source basically says it'll be much less appealing now, especially since rangers often want to focus fire on their hunter's mark target anyway.
That's a pretty major rebalancing. Okay, defensive tactics, same deal, changeable on arrest.
Exactly. You can swap between, say, escape the horde and multi-attack defense after arrest.
Adapting your defense. Let's break those down. Escape the horde. Still for hit and run.
Pretty much. Makes it harder for enemies to get opportunity attacks on you. Situational, good for skirmishers.
And multi-attack defense. How does that work now?
Instead of a flat AC bonus against later attacks from the same enemy,
Yeah.
it now imposes disadvantage on all their subsequent attack rolls against you that turn after the first one hits.
Disadvantage. Okay. The source considered that roughly equivalent protection.
Yeah, largely equivalent, maybe even slightly better, because disadvantage also lowers the chance of a critical hit.
Good point. Okay, so still a solid choice against monsters with lots of attacks.
Very solid. Probably the go-to for many hunters.
All right, moving up. Level 11, Superior Hunter's Prey. What's that add?
This lets you, once per turn when you hit with an attack, apply your hunter's mark damage to a second creature within 10 feet of the first.
So splash damage for Hunter's Mark, essentially?
Kind of, yeah. It's an extra D6 damage, or D10 later with Foe Slayer hitting a nearby enemy. The source notes it's, nice and works on opportunity attacks too, but it's not a game-changing damage boost.
Okay, a modest bump. And finally, the level 15 feature, Superior Hunter's Defense.
Oh, this one is strong. Very potent. When you get hit by an attack, you can use your reaction to gain resistance to one damage type from that attack.
Resistance as a reaction.
Yep. Lasts until the start of your next turn. So if a dragon breathes fire on you, reaction, resist fire damage from that blast.
Wow, that is incredibly good for survivability, especially against big single damage type of attacks.
Huge defensive tool.
Okay, great breakdown of the hunter. Now, that source you mentioned, the one with the build, it was called, Oh, Hi, Hunter's Mark.
Yeah, that's the one.
Let's dig into that. How does this build actually use all these new features? What's the core strategy?
It really leans into that hunter's mark focus we've been talking about. The goal is consistent damage, and it's built to work well in both melee and ranged.
How does it manage both?
It starts out using two-weapon fighting, early levels. But the plan is to transition to dual-wielding hand crossbows once you grab the crossbow expert feat.
Ah, the classic crossbow expert build allows bonus action attacks with a hand crossbow.
Exactly, and ignores the loading property, which is key for using two of them.
So definitely a dexterity first build then.
Absolutely. Dex is king for attacks, AC, skills, then Constitution for HP, and Wisdom is important too for spells and some ranger features.
Right, like Tireless and Nature's Veil uses.
Yep. Strength, intelligence, charisma are lower priorities for this specific approach.
Makes sense. What about background and species choices recommended?
The build suggests the scribe background. gives dex and wisdom bonuses, plus useful skills like investigation and perception.
Okay. And species.
It flags a few good options. Variant Human is strong for gaining a feat at level 1. They suggest alert for initiative and avoiding surprise.
Always good.
Goliath is mentioned for Cloud's Jaunt, which is basically a short-range teleport for mobility.
Nice escape or repositioning tool.
And Orc for relentless endurance survivability and aggressive for closing distance.
Good options. Okay, the feats. This is where builds really take shape. How does this one progress?
Assuming Variant Human that starts with skilled at level 1, gets 3 extra skill proficiencies right away, lots of versatility.
Okay, broad base early on.
Level 4 is the big one, Crossbow Expert. That unlocks the dual-hand crossbow fighting style. Big jump and attack potential.
And bonus action use.
Critical. Then at level 8, it takes Piercer. That feat boosts piercing damage, lets you reroll a damage die once per turn, and makes critical hits nastier.
Synergizes well with crossbows.
Definitely. Level 12, it grabs Mage Slayer, helps shut down enemy spellcasters, which become more common threats.
Tactical choice for mid to high levels.
Then at 16, it's a straight +2 to Wisdom. Boosts spells, boosts features tied to the Wisdom mod.
Like those Nature's Veil uses.
Exactly. And finally, level 19, it suggests the boon of Irresistible Offense. It's a high-level epic boon, pushes dex potentially past 20, making attacks even more accurate and damaging.
Okay, interesting path. It notably skips the dual wielder feat, which some might expect for 2-weapon fighting.
Yeah, because the real focus shifts to the hand crossbows with Crossbow Expert pretty early.
Yeah.
The feat just isn't needed for that style.
Gotcha. All right, let's walk through the levels. How does this build actually play according to the guide? Level 1.
Level 1, you've only got, 2 spell slots?
Yeah.
So those free Hunter's Mark castings from favorite enemy are crucial. That's your main damage boost.
Right. Got to make those slots count.
Combat is probably short sword and dagger, maybe 2 short swords using the Vex Mastery for advantage. Have some thrown daggers ready for ranged hits. Basic stuff.
Makes sense. Level 2, expertise and fighting style come online.
Expertise goes into perception. Classic Ranger being the eyes of the party.
Smart.
Fighting style is archery. That +2 to ranged attack rolls. Sets you up perfectly for the crossbows later.
Planning ahead. Any key spells early?
Fog Cloud is mentioned as good utility. Create cover, block line of sight.
Level 3, you pick the subclass, Hunter, which Prey does the build favor.
Colossus Slayer. That extra D8 damage against injured targets is just reliable, consistent damage, which fits the build's goal.
Okay. And Goodberry is noted for out-of-combat healing. Always useful.
Always.
Level 4. This is the pivot point, right?
Sure. Yep. Grab Crossbow Expert. Start practicing the hand crossbow routine. Maybe keep melee weapons handy for juggling if something gets close.
Juggling weapons, always fun.
And Absorb Elements becomes a key defensive spell here. Mitigate elemental damage. Hit back harder.
Essential survival tool. Level 5. Extra attack. Big power spike.
Huge. 2 attacks per action now. Your damage output really jumps.
And level 2 spells. Anything stand out.
Magic weapon. If you don't have magic crossbows yet, making 1+1 to hit and to damage is a significant boost, especially combined with Hunter's Mark and Colossus Slayer.
Yeah, those bonuses stack up.
Just remember it requires concentration, like Hunter's Mark, so you'd likely focus it on one crossbow.
Good point. Okay, level 7, defensive tactic time. Which one?
Multi-attack defense is the recommendation. That disadvantage against follow-up attacks is just consistently useful against common monster attack patterns.
Makes sense. Pass Without Trace also becomes available here, right? Massive party stealth buff.
Oh yeah, huge utility spell for a ranger.
Level 9, another expertise, level 3 spells.
For expertise, Sleight of Hand is suggested. Good for utility, dealing with traps or locks maybe.
Okay. And spells. Level 3 has some big ones.
Conjure Animals is discussed, potentially very powerful for controlling the battlefield with summons. Lightning Arrow is a strong, single-target ranged blast.
How does it compare Elemental Weapon?
The build argues that Elemental Weapon, another concentration spell, generally isn't as good for sustained damage as just keeping Hunter's Mark up and using Magic Weapon if needed.
Interesting calculation. Okay, moving into the teens. Levels 11 through 16, key points.
Level 11, Superior Hunter's Prey. That splash damage is, like we said, okay, but not amazing. Revivify at level 11 is obviously crucial if no one else has it.
Yeah, bringing people back from the dead is kind of important.
Kinda. Level 12, Mage Slayer starts really pulling its weight against enemy casters. Level 13, Relentless Hunter gives a reaction movement when missed, adding to mobility.
Reinforces that skirmisher feel.
Level 15, Superior Hunter's Defense. That reaction resistance pairs nicely with multi-attack defense for serious toughness.
Okay. And level 16, that wisdom bump feat. Oh, wait, the build suggests Fey Touch.
Ah, right. Good catch. The build actually recommends Fey Touched at 16. It gives Misty Step for bonus action teleportation.
More mobility.
And the command spell, which is great control. Plus it gives a +1 wisdom, getting you closer to that capstone, ASI, or another feat later.
Ah, okay. Fey Touched makes a lot of sense for utility and that whiz bump. Got it.
Sure.
Finally, the high levels. 17 to 20.
Level 17, Precise Hunter adds 1d8 to 1 attack roll per turn. The build notes it might be less impactful here because you're making so many attacks with advantage, maybe from Vex on melee or other sources, or just rolling so often you're likely to hit anyway.
Okay. What about Swift Quiver, the classic high-level ranger spell?
The build questions its value for this specific build. Swift Quiver uses your bonus action for 2 extra attacks, but Crossbow Expert already uses your bonus action for 1 extra attack.
And you probably want concentration on Hunter's Mark anyway.
Exactly. So is Swift Quiver really better than consistent Hunter's Mark damage, plus your normal Crossbow Expert bonus attack? The build seems skeptical. It does mention Steel Windstrike, though.
Oh, that's a cool spell. Multiple attacks, teleport around.
Yeah, good burst damage potential, and it synergizes nicely with Nature's Veil for positioning.
Okay. Level 18. Feral Senses. We talked about that blind sight.
Right. And the build highlights a cool combo. Cast Fog Cloud. Step inside. Enemies can't see you, but you can see them perfectly within 30 feet thanks to blind sight. Major tactical advantage.
That's nasty. Create your own personal kill zone.
Pretty much. Level 19, that boon of irresistible offense. Pushing dex higher makes all those attacks more likely to hit and do more damage. Synergizes really well with high attack volume.
Makes sense. Boon of Fate is mentioned as an alternative for rerolls.
Yeah, more general flexibility if you prefer that.
And level 20, Foe Slayer, the Hunter's Mark damage bump to D10.
Right. It's compared to irresistible offense. Foe Slayer is a nice damage increase, but it's only on Hunter's Mark. The boon boosts all your attacks' hit chance and damage slightly. The build seems to favor the boon's broader impact.
Okay, so overall, this, Hunter's Mark build seems like a really tight, focused strategy. It leverages the new Hunter's Mark emphasis, the power of Crossbow Expert, and layers in defensive and utility options.
Yeah, it's a solid example of how you might build around the strengths of the 2024 Ranger, especially the Hunter.
All right, we've gone through the general changes, the Hunter Deep Dive, the example build. Stepping back, what are the big picture implications, the main takeaways from all this?
I think the main themes are definitely increased power and flexibility right from the start. Level 1 Rangers feel much more capable.
Yeah, that early spellcasting is huge.
And there's that really strong, clear refocusing on Hunter's Mark. It's not just a spell. It feels like it's meant to be the core Ranger mechanic now.
Woven into more features.
Exactly. And then significantly better defensive capabilities, especially for the Hunter subclass later on.
So it feels like Rangers might play differently, or maybe just more effectively in their traditional roles.
Maybe a bit of both. You could definitely see more Rangers really doubling down on that single target damage dealer role with a Hunter's Mark.
Yeah.
But the flexibility is also way up. Swapping fighting styles, swapping Hunter's prey or defensive tactics, that allows for a lot more adaptation than before. Could lead to more varied builds too, not just the standard archer.
That adaptability seems key. Was anything in the changes particularly surprising looking back?
I think the Hordebreaker change was pretty significant. That nerf feels like it really pushes hunters away from crowd control.
Yeah, that stood out.
And maybe the Foe Slayer change. Tying it only to Hunter's Mark makes it feel a bit narrower than the old wisdom-based bonus, even if the damage is more direct.
Yeah, less universally applicable if you're not using the mark for some reason. And that build really drove home the synergy between the core class changes and feats like Crossbow Expert. It feels like a very intended way to play now.
It certainly looks effective on paper. Leveraging those core strengths, sustained damage via Hunter's Mark, high attack volume from Crossbow Expert.
Well, this has been super illuminating. A really great deep dive into the 2024 Ranger. It sounds like a class that's gained a lot, especially early on, and has a clearer identity even with all the new flexibility.
Agreed. It'll be fascinating to see how it plays out in actual games.
Definitely. So as we wrap up, here's something for you listening to chew on. With this boosted early power and the heavy focus on Hunter's Mark, how do you think this new Ranger changes party dynamics?
Good question.
Does the Ranger step up more, fill different niches? How does that consistent resource-linked damage output compare to, say, a Warlock's Eldritch Blast or a Fighter's maneuvers early on? It's definitely worth thinking about how they'll slot into a group now.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear what you think. Have you tried the new Ranger yet? What jumps out at you?
Any questions this brought up, let us know.
And maybe think about how these ranger changes stack up against what's happening with other classes in the 2024 Player's Handbook. There's a lot to explore.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
See you next time.